Yeah, I just wrapped up the film actually, so this is perfect timing, man. I had a blast. Um,
Okay.
this film Pig Hill is based on the Nancy Williams's novel and rooted in a real urban legend from Meadville, Pennsylvania. What first attracted you to this story, and how did you approach adapting it for the screen?
Um, Thank you for having me, by the way. So I really liked the whole themes of what it was trying to say, and I don't want to give too much away because there's
Yeah.
some surprise twists here, but just it's a horror movie, right? It's like a psychological horror movie, but there's also a lot of drama going on, right? With these characters and themes of also kind of what's going on now with like in this world of like with gaslighting and grooming and things like that. So that's what really attracted me. That the third act, the twist was one that I was like, I got to do this movie. Um, so that's what excited me about it, and the idea of the perspective of Carrie and seeing the movie through her eyes, seeing the story, her journey, and how do you do that with perspective and making entertaining, and where do you go and not go and things like that? Because Nancy's book is great, and there's some stuff in there that was like, man, if you do that, it's like I don't know, we might lose the audience. So I was trying to teeter on all that. But it was a fun thing to do for sure to figure it out.
Yeah, I went into this as blind as I could, and obviously audiences know you for Willy's Wonderland. You got the poster behind you.
Yeah,
Wildly different tone, especially
yeah,
right off the bat. You
yeah.
know, how did you approach shifting between outrageous horror comedy and then this? Because I would describe this film as more of like darker, sinister horror.
Yeah.
It's different, but at the same, I mean, there's always this through line with horror. You can always exceed expectations and or like do whatever you want. Really, it's a playground, and
Yeah.
you did that with both films. But how did you kind of jump from one to the other?
Thank you. Horror's great genre, right? You could do a lot of stuff with it. And to me, horror is great drama with the characters, right? But then it's in like, you know, supernatural sequences or building worlds, right? So like with Willie's built that world, and to me with Pig Hill, we're building that world. And so that's kind of what I like playing in the horror space is the aesthetic, but it's still good drama. And even though, making movies is interesting, right? Because people see one thing and they think, okay, well, that's all you do. And so Willie's, it's like, well, that's like you said, like it's just horror comedy, wackadoodle, whatever. But the idea is that there's a lot more to me on that. I've always loved drama. I've always liked the intense characters and intense situations and things. So I would have to argue that Pig Hill is a little bit more my vibe in terms of what's going on. It's the stakes of the story. Um, but I want to do different films. That's what to me making movies is about. I don't want to just keep repeating the same thing. So I think, I feel like I'm getting a style where a visual style, at least aesthetic wise, you could see a little bit of Willie's in the Pig Hill, but in terms and the tone, but then it also drifts and it comes like you said, more sinister horror. It's very different. And that's what's exciting about it, is just challenging yourself. And, people have these expectations. They see one movie and they go, that's what you do. But it's like, no, there's a lot of different shades, so.
Definitely. I could definitely see this the style from one to the other. You're a master at lighting and like those silhouette shots that kind of set the mood.
Yeah.
It's sick. It's sick, and that's one of the hardest things to teach. And you're like next level at it. So it's pretty cool to like deliver that atmosphere in a way that's so engaging. So if you're putting your stamp on anything, I mean that's one of the key elements that I've noticed with your work.
You made my day. I mean, that to me, like Ridley Scott is one of my favorite directors. I mean, I've always loved atmosphere, and I've always loved. I come from a still photography background, so I've always about the still image, and to me, I want to, even though these are indie films and I've the crunch time and shoestring budgets and all that, I really want to put up an image that you could frame, that you could just hang and frame.
Yeah.
But all also serving the story and the character and what's going on. And the story and the narrative is the most important thing. But that's one of the reasons I got all into filmmaking is just visually, and it's just stimulating. And so thank you for that. That was a great compliment. And that's what I'm trying to do with my work is really trying to make a stamp and just say, look, if you want me to make a film with you or the producers or whatever, a Kevin Lewis movie, that's what you're going to get. And that's what I want to do. Because to me, life's too short. When you make these movies, it takes a bit of your soul,
Yeah.
And so I want to do something that's artistically pleasing for me that I'm going to put everything I have into it because, I'm not one of these guys that just went, oh yeah, sure, I'll do this. Like, no, I go in 110% in, and think about the movie. I mean, with Pig Hill, I've been cutting that thing for 2 years almost. Like it's just back and forth working on it. And, it's never good and never done till it's done. And I think what Lucas said, like movies are never finished, they're abandoned, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
a point where you just got to let it go. But yeah, I really like visually telling the audience through show it. I mean, cinema is a visual medium, so you really need to show what you're doing, so
It makes sense to me that you do have a photography background just because when I did get this press release and
mm,
like those still images kind of came across my desk, that
yeah.
was the first thing that engaged me. They're beautiful, and so compliments to you for that.
Mhm.
Before we get too much into photography, I want to mention, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, the setting. Meadville, it isn't just a setting; it's where the legend originates. How important was it for you to shoot on location, to capture that authenticity and that buzzword that we keep mentioning, the atmosphere of the story, because it does shine through.
So it was very important. And Ted, the producer, he arranged all the locations, and those are real locations. And even going out there to that town, it's like the pig people. We had pig people beer in the movie, and there's signs of missing girls at the bars. I mean, it's real. That legend is real, and the urban legend. And so going to these places and going and it's very, you can feel it, the again atmosphere, but it is. It's so what was cool about that too, it was kind of like a back lot because like the bar would over be here, then you'd walk down this street, there's the jail, then you go over here, here's the restaurant, here's the and we did the Swills Cave and stuff like in this abandoned swimming pool, and it was right across the street. So it was like we just go and it was really nice because when you make these indie movies, location moves can kill you, right? You're doing a
Yep.
film, then you got to pack up everything and go. And it's like, so we were right around, distance from most of the locations, which was great.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback off that, ultimately this is kind of going to be our wrap up, but
Yeah.
I think you guys did a really well job, honoring the folklore, but at the same time, kind of creating your own terrifying vision, which, when this all kind of gets put in front of you, I know that that's probably a task in itself is to make sure that you honor it and not mock it. Was there any difficulties, with that as you guys went on through the project?
Um, you know, no, I mean the actors and I talked with them. It's like they all knew their characters. They did such a fantastic job. Rainey, Shane, Shiloh, yes, they just did an amazing job. Max. But the idea was just to be truthful to it and really get what the story is about and the narrative and always stay focused on the narrative. But then, like you said, we dance in and out of this kind of supernatural, kind of fever dream world back
Yeah.
into real. So, like tethering that line, right? Figuring out exactly how far I can go and dip in and come back out and stuff. So that was kind of a bob and weave thing of like, okay, I could do it here, but I'm going to do it here, and I still got to make sense to the audience. The audience will be like, what's going on? So I had to make sure everything wrapped up real tight and nice. And it was interesting too because it would be like just one shot I would need, and that could just signal like, okay, we get it, And so there are a couple things, right? I always have to go through. It's like, oh, I got to pick up one shot here, and it's crucial, and these shots matter,
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was a fun dance back and forth.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, this was a fantastic ride, and congratulations on the release. I know that any project is going to have its ups and downs, and it's such a relief once it finally hits those audiences. You have a few films in post production, so you're always working. It seems.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want audiences to get out of Pig Hill? Like ultimately your final thoughts on the project.
Really, well, again, not giving anything away, but I just would love it to resonate with people. I think it's a movie that, love it or hate it, you're not going to forget it. And that's kind of what I would want. I would want people to
Awesome.
be like, they didn't, the pig movie, it's like, oh yeah, that one. And it's either they hated it and they're like, this movie is horrible, but they still can't get out of their head, or they loved it and they can't get out of their head. And my grandfather, he was an actor, Tom Tully, and he would always say what you want about me, just spell my name right, and that's kind of what I feel with Pig Hill. It's like, it's it can be very polarizing, and I knew that going in, but that's what's to me great art. It evokes emotion, and so whether negative or positive, it stays with you. And that's what I'd like it to. I like it to stay with people.
Well, just like Willy's Wonderland, Pig Hill is going to stay with me. Kevin Lewis, thank you so much for your time. At CineDump, we let the doers know how they're doing, and you are doing just fine. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day, sir.
Thanks, Jesse. Really appreciate it.